When was the last time you played a video game? 2 weeks ago? Yesterday? Maybe even 5 minutes ago? Video games are a fun way to meet people and let off some stress. Personally, one of my favorite games to play is Cookie Run Kingdom. Oh, oh my god. Just like these thousands of players, I enjoy the gameplay and mechanics of this game, but have you ever thought about the possible dark side of these types of games? In a game like Cookie Run Kingdom, they have a mechanic called a gacha system, which is essentially a tool where you pay some in-game currency to pull for powerful characters to fight with other players with, or take part in their story mode. Now you might be thinking, Maddie, that sounds like gambling. I thought the same thing the more I thought about it, which begs to ask, is this just a fun game mechanic, or is it actually a form of gambling that's being normalized? And more importantly, is this a problem that impacts young players the most? Today I'm going to talk about why loot boxes should be viewed as a potential form of gambling and why they may need more regulation, especially concerning younger players. This is an important issue because it doesn't just affect games, it affects how people spend money, make decisions, and develop future habits. First, let's break down what a gacha pull looks like in Cookie Run Kingdom. In this particular game, you pull for characters' clothes and treasures that you can use to buff your team. The key part of the system is randomness. You don't know what you're getting until after you've already paid. Sometimes you might get something rare, like a new character or costume, but oftentimes you'll end up getting something common or rare, which is basically worth nothing in the game. Because of this, players often keep buying more gacha pulls, hoping for a better outcome. This game uses currency that you earn through playing the game, but there's also an important option of whether or not you want to spend real money. When you look closely, loot boxes share a lot of similarities with gambling. In gambling, you spend money for a chance to win something valuable or monetary, but there's never a guarantee you'll win. Loot boxes work the same way. You're paying for a chance-based reward. Even though you're not always winning character or a costume, you're still risking the possible money for something that's uncertain. That's what makes people question whether gacha games should be treated more seriously. Whether or not you think this is an important issue, I'm here to prove to you that it is. This issue matters because it affects real people, especially younger players. Many teens play games that include gacha pools, and they may not fully realize how much money they are spending over time. Because loot boxes rely on chance, they can encourage repeated spending. A player might think, oh, I'll just try one more time, but that can turn into multiple purchases. Over time, this can add up to a lot of money. It can also affect how people think about spending. Instead of buying something they know they'll get, players are paying for a chance. This can create a habit that is similar to gambling behavior, especially when players start chasing better rewards. Another reason why gacha pulls are so effective is because they are designed to be exciting. The bright colors, animations, and sound effects make them feel very rewarding, even if the item isn't valuable. This appeals to many people's emotions, not just their logic. Players feel excitement, anticipation, and sometimes even frustration, all of which keep them engaged. These emotional responses make it harder for players to stop spending even when they probably should. Because of these risks, loot boxes shouldn't just be seen as harmless parts of the game. They have real similarities to gambling, and that's why some level of regulation makes sense. Regulation doesn't mean banning all these games outright, it just means making them safer for the player base. For example, games should be required to show the odds of certain items so the player knows their chances of winning. There could also be limits to protect younger players, such as age restrictions or even spending controls that can be set up by parents. For example, the Belgian Gaming Commission ruled that certain paid gacha systems qualify as games with chance under Belgian law. This means that legally, some loot boxes are defined as gambling. The Belgian Gaming Commission calls this type of gameplay fixed odds, and describes it as such. A fixed odds bet is a bet where players make bets on the outcome of a specific event, where the amount of winnings is determined according to what the player gave. Gaming Commission. Their description allows us to explore how gaming companies can get away with this behavior, just as long as they're staying under the rules. In a game like Cookie Run Kingdom, they have a probability disclosure before you pull. In Asia, where the game was made, they have a pity system law that allows players to get a character and item after a certain amount of pulls. Luckily, these laws also carried into the mechanics for the rest of the world. However, in places like China, they have strict registration that bans minors from using these gacha systems or heavily limits their spending. These kind of rules would help balance the industry while allowing people to enjoy the game. Some people might argue that players are responsible for their own choices and that loot boxes are completely optional. From this perspective, nobody is being forced to spend money, so it shouldn't be treated as the same as gambling. They also argue that loot boxes are just another form of entertainment, similar to buying trading cards or collectible items. where chance has always been part of the experience. In addition, gaming companies often rely on loot boxes as a sort of revenue, especially in free-to-play games. So strict regulations could hurt the industry or lead to higher upfront costs for players. While these points are valid, they don't fully address the issue. The main concern is not whether loot boxes are optional, but how they are designed to influence behavior. Loot boxes are built around psychological techniques like reward anticipation, bright visuals, and near-miss outcomes that encourage players to keep going. This makes it harder for players, especially younger ones, to recognize when they should stop. For example, a younger player might not think about how much money they are spending over time. They may focus more on the excitement of opening the loot box and the possibility of getting a rare item. This can lead to impulsive decisions like continuing to spend money even after multiple disappointing results. Over time, this behavior can create habits where players start to chase rewards similar to patterns seen in gambling. So the next time you see a gacha game, think about what you're really paying for. Are you buying something guaranteed or are you buying a chance? And more importantly, should that system be treated more like gambling? This is an ongoing debate, but one thing is clear. It's not just about games anymore, it's about how the system influences people's behavior and decisions.